I kind of fell into the hospitality industry, to be honest. I started off life as a student housing developer, and that's what I was doing in the UK 25 years ago.
That's Charlie MacGregor, the founder of the Student Hotel, which of course became the social hub. And in this video, we're going to get the whole backstory of how it got started, what Charlie saw, what he did about it, and a little bit more behind the scenes of this incredible business today. You're watching Hospitality Daily. I'm your host, Josiah Mackenzie. Let's get into it.
I was stimulated to get into the student housing industry because I saw that the older guys, and I can say that my dad was my inspiration and my sort of reason why I got into it, were really, treating students a bit like a commodity, who really cared about them as tenants. They weren't tenants. There was direct leases to the universities and stuff. And when I saw these buildings, I was kind of inspired by a group that I was never clever enough to go to university myself, but I was the same age as them, and I was like, wow, these kids, these guys are super clever. They're clever than me. They're the next future of us, the next leaders and movers and shakers of our businesses and our world and stuff like that. And we're treating them like crap. We're not, the same boring rooms, the same furniture. There was no, love, no passion, all these signs saying, don't do this, don't do that. You're going to be fined. You'll be thrown out. You'll be banned. And I was like, wow, man, maybe we should treat them a little bit better, give them world-class education, which everybody was talking about, but let's give them world-class accommodation. And that's kind of how I fell into just providing rooms and getting, I guess, my first glimpse of hospitality.
So if I could ask, I want to continue with the story, but what you just shared stands out to me because I think broadly in the hospitality industry, there are still a lot of people that are taking things for granted. What you just shared fascinates me because you talked about a world-class education and the accommodations, the environment you're in was overlooked or taken for granted by a lot of people. Why is the environment so important in affecting other areas of our life, in studies in this case, but more broadly?
I mean, if you just think about what you try to create at home, you try to create somewhere where you feel safe, of course. I mean, shelter is a fundamental first priority whenever you're looking for safety. So, we create a safe environment where we can relax and we can rest and we can recover. We can have a good night's sleep, So I think that fundamental need for a safe environment where we're resting and we can of course then connect with our partners or our family, whatever it is, wherever it is around us. It is absolutely fundamental. When you're studying abroad, you're very often and certainly in our business, where in the student housing business, you're catering for a group who are leaving home for the first time. So a massive moment for them, of course, complete freedom. Hey, fantastic, I'm away from mom and dad. But yeah, you need to be safe. You need to be in a safe environment and secure. Very important for moms and dads as well. I'm a parent as well. And when you're at that moment, when you're saying goodbye to your kids, it's, a huge transition moment. We always focus on kids in student housing, but the parents are often going back to an empty home by themselves for the first time in 20 odd years. So hugely transitional moment for them as well. But that safe environment is really important. And I guess when you translate that into the hospitality industry, when we're traveling, we're moving around, we're doing our thing, whether that be leisure or work, and you come into a space where you want to feel safe and you want to be able to relax. And so it's fundamental. The surroundings, your environment plays an effect on how you perform the next day, whether you're a student or a professional or whatever you're doing.
So your father is working in student accommodation in Scotland. You begin working in this industry in a very early age. You're seeing broadly in the industry, people are taking people for granted. I would love if we kind of pick up your story and what led to starting the student hotel. Kind of what were some of the early stages of that?
Yeah, I mean, I bought the remains of my dad's student housing business when I was 25 years old, and started developing that business again, giving it a sort of a second breath of life, and started my own projects in the UK. At the time, I was living in London and felt that London was kind of beating the crap out of me, and wanted to move. So I moved to Amsterdam, and when I moved to Amsterdam, I was kind of cycling around trying to orientate myself a little bit. and I came across a group of students who were protesting, and they had this bed sheet held up saying, "Yeah, students don't want to live in anti-squatting places anymore." I was like, "Anti-squatting places, student accommodation? What's going on?" So when I dived into the market, I saw, there was a 4-year-long waiting list for student rooms, which I still don't quite understand, that you get your room when your studies finish. I don't know how that works still, but anyway, there was a big need for professional student housing. So I saw that, what I'd learned in the UK, and the company that I was busy building up in the UK had a real need for the business and the skill set that we had in Holland. So that's really how I started. I think what I tried to do, of course, was just to build student accommodation. In Holland, they have very complex housing rules and regulations which restrict the size of room, the rent you can pay. Ultimately, all those rules and regulations lead to a shortage in rooms, which lead, of course, to a 4-year-long waiting list for student rooms, etc. And I guess I was convinced that students deserve better. I was convinced that I could give them better in terms of better accommodation, but also just a way of handling them, a better lobby space, trusting them with a high level of design, using design to inspire them to behave in a certain way instead of expecting them to destroy the place. And so using and that's kind of how I started, and that's how I started into the hospitality world, because I realized if I used a hotel license, I could build the rooms that I knew that a student wanted, so a bit of a smaller room, but lots of very good communal spaces. And I could build a room focused on what the customer wanted instead of what the rule book said in the residential world. And in the hotel world, I was completely free to do this. And the first thing that kind of really was my eureka moment was there was such a bad reputation around student housing that if I had a hotel and I was able to offer that hotel room to mums and dads to say, "Hey, come and spend a week, when you're checking in little Johnny or little Sarah, come and spend a week and get to know the city and see the new accommodation, see where they are, see the university, and share that sort of that handover period of kind of losing your kids, come and do it with them. Come and spend a week with them at their birthdays or at Christmas or whatever, and Mother's Day, Father's Day, and come and share that experience, that education experience." And for me, that was a eureka moment, because I realized if I dared invite mums and dads into the same building that I was hosting their kids, then that was a pretty strong marketing signal. I mean, you'd be an idiot, of course, to invite mums and dads if your rooms were terrible. So that was kind of my first sort of moment into bridging and generations and inviting different sort of user groups into the same building. And that's really how it simply started, to be honest.
I'm hearing in what you shared a lot about design. You mentioned it sounds like the rooms in some cases are a little bit smaller, but bigger common areas. You also mentioned that design can inspire people to behave in a certain way, which is fascinating to me. I wonder if you could elaborate on that, because I feel like sometimes in hotels, people get a little bit rowdy. In student accommodations, people sometimes can get even more so. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was, I mean, again, I was young. I was sort of, 25 or 27 years old or something like that. So, I still felt very relatable to my target audience as the students, not so much with the parents. But I wanted to create a space where I wanted to be as well, something nice that looked cool. And I guess in the beginning, I had so much resistance from everybody. I mean, from my investors, from the local bankers, from the planning departments, from the local politicians, from absolutely everybody. You can't invite hotel guests into the same space as students. It's just not done. And there was a lot of resistance to this idea of mixing people. And people really thought that if there was not just a parent, but if there was a corporate traveler coming in to stay in one of our larger, of course, nicely designed 4-star hotel rooms, but they came across a student, then there would be all carnage, all hell would break loose. And this idea was really struck me as like completely absurd. And of course, we opened our buildings, but we used design to stimulate connection, to stimulate the type of behavior we wanted as well. If you build a space, and this is where I think the origin of the problem comes, student housing per definition builds buildings only for students. So there's 200 or 300 or 400 20-year-old students in a building. that is designed on the premises that they're going to destroy the place. So you kind of institutionalize. So you even make it worse. You walk into this place, it's not inspirational, it's designed, that nobody can break it, and there's not an adult in a room. I mean, of course, that demographic is going to behave like a group of 20-year-olds, because it is a group of 20-year-olds. The same as a group of guys at a football match act like a group of guys at a football match. As soon as you start bringing demographics and sexes and different backgrounds together, then everything changes. We as a society, we are used to being around young people, old people, rich people, poor people. I mean, every blend of walking life is all around us, on a metro station, in a Starbucks, in walking down the high street. And we all feed off each other's energy. We all mix together, and we all help each other balance each other out. And when you bring that down into into a building of 400, 500, 600 rooms, you need design to influence the behavior you want. And what we want is, of course, respect and trust and fun to each other. But you wanna have moments where people are connecting and bumping into each other and just being human beings. And I guess that's where design really plays an important role.
Are there things that you're observing in the culture or in the world now that you're finding people are wanting the experience that you provide in the social hub more than ever?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's simple connection. Especially if you look at we're very lucky as a company. We have, as I said, this conveyor belt of next generation talent coming into our buildings straight off the mum and dad production line. So we are able to hear firsthand what the future trends are going to be. If they like red, then we hear about it. Hey, where's the red color? And in a few years' time, there's going to be this explosion of red. This is the first generation of consumers that you get access to. So so it's really, really a privileged position we're in. What we're seeing from them, and what's been increasing over the last few years, is this fear of expressing your voice, because immediately you're stigmatized, or you're pigeonholed. You're either for or against, you're pro or anti, you're left or right, and this sort of fear that we're creating in our society is something I think we as adults and parents, we really need to take seriously. What we're doing as the social hub is able to kind of double down on our ability to create a safe space. When we were doing our rebranding as to the social hub, we said, okay, the why we want to create the social hub is we believe that bringing people together will create a better society.
Do you think hospitality has a unique opportunity to do that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the word hospitality, no? I mean, hello, let's take a step back. What are we doing? We are being hospitable. That means you have to be friendly, you have to be nice, you have to connect people, you have to be open arms to everybody. And when you are truly hospitable, you're opening your doors to everybody. So I think that mindset is really what we're doing as the social hub, and trying to create that safe space where people can express their different views and not being pigeonholed, because if I look to myself, I've got a lot of, I'm working with refugees and camps and stuff like that. I've got a company called the Social Hub. So, immediately I'm a left winger, and boom. But I'm a business guy. I've got some, ideas that would be considered right wing as well. Am I then? I'm a bit of everything, and I think it's okay to say, hey, we're not just one category. We're not for or against. I'm a little bit of everything. And that's what we're trying to be at the Social Hub. So I think that's where we're trying to position ourselves, that it's okay to come in. We want to be that safe space for everybody to just connect and understand that, hey, yeah, they've got some different ideas for me, but yeah, really nice person. I really like them.